Amen. So I'm going to be flipping a little bit today. I'm going to be all up in the word today. Because I think what God has given me today is important. I hear you. Is important. Because I think it's something that I've realized is really plaguing us as a society, especially as kingdom citizens. It's something that we have allowed to, I think, run amok, not only in the church, but in our personal lives, in the body, just as people. The word God gave me when I was preparing this was spectacle. Can anybody tell me what a spectacle is? What is a spectacle? What is it? Something to watch. What else? Something you see that blows your mind. A show. Anything else? Something that's meant to entertain people. Right, so the actual definition, the Google definition, is a visually striking performance or display. That's what a spectacle is. Now, when I thought about that definition and that word, I asked myself, is God in spectacles? Like, is a spectacle God's arena? Or is that man's arena? Because when I looked through the Bible and I began to study certain things, I realized that anything that God did on a big platform wasn't meant to entertain. Anything God did or Jesus did when he walked the earth, anything that was done when he fed all the people, loaves of bread and fish, when his disciples spoke in all different languages and tongues. None of these things were meant to be a spectacle. They all had some type of direction. They were all very specific, and they all were meant for a purpose. Nothing that was done on a large scale under God's watch was meant for play, for entertainment, or as a spectacle in any way. But what I realized is that God is not in the spectacle at all. He's actually in the speck. He's in the little things. So that brought me to one of my favorite people in the Bible, which is funny to say because our pastor's name is David. But David, in 1 Samuel, we'll start there. 1 Samuel chapter 17. And you guys know this story very well with David and Goliath. I think God brought me back to David because I put myself in the shoes of David in a way. If you know the story of David, you know that David was told that he was the next king at a very young age, but didn't become king till decades later. So imagine someone coming and telling you at 12, 10, you're going to be the next king, and you need to go back and clean up the boo-boo from the sheet. It wouldn't really make sense because nothing that you're doing in your mind leads to the kingdom. Everything you're doing seems like you're just taking care of sheep. So God showed me in Samuel when Goliath came before the people. I'm going to read exactly what it says. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 4. Let me find it here. It says, a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine in a coat of silver armor. I skipped a part. He came out of the Philistine camp. He was over 9 feet tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head. He wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves and had a bronze javelin and that was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and his iron point weighed 600 shekels. His shield bearer went ahead of him. So that all that says is that my man was decked out in gold. He looked good. He was 6 feet tall. He looked strong. He looked like he was the most powerful. And on top of that, he, based off of the description, probably had the best armor and weapons out there. It then says, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out? Why do you come out and line up for battle? I am not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." So basically, to paint the picture for you, Goliath is making a spectacle. He's standing in front of his army and in front of their army, and he's saying, "Look at me. I'm the biggest. I'm the strongest. I look the best. There's no one. You all servants. You're peasants. You can't. There's no way you have anyone that can defeat me." A spectacle. What God showed me about Goliath is that a lot of us have Goliath tendencies and have a lot of Goliath characteristics, me being one of them too. I always pride myself on being transparent about my life, right? Because I feel like if I can't be honest, what's the point of ministering? So a lot of times I think people assume because you have the ability to teach or minister that you're not having to fight other thoughts consistently and constantly when that happens. And I'm not talking about life being hard. I'm not talking about demons. I'm not talking about things destroying my home. I'm talking about thoughts like, man, I hope there's 100 people here so they can hear what I have to say. I'm talking about thoughts like, I got to make sure this point is really good because I need to make sure that they get this. I'm talking about, man, maybe if I stand up and I shout right here, or if I shed a tear right here, it'll make everybody else shout and they'll shed a tear. And you have to fight constantly with the idea of that this is an audience of one. I'm just being honest here. Because a lot of teachers and ministers and preachers and pastors are caught up in the spectacle and not the spec of what they're doing. So it'll be easy for me to tell you, I get told I'm teaching, and then it's like, okay, there's no thoughts. We're just going to, if one person shows up, that's it. No, it's some work to get there. That is not the first thought. Now, my motives are pure. I don't want the accolades and the pats on the back, but I still have to fight the thoughts that begin to bleed in that say, wouldn't it be nice if they all come up after you and tell you, man, you did a good job? And you begin to change some points because I don't want to offend anybody. Or if I say this right here, I know that this is going to really hit home and they're going to post it into one line. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest, right? So you have to constantly fight that because that's the spectacle. Now, I'm talking about that on the level of being up here. We all have to fight that in every aspect. We all have kids or have been a kid before. You have been in moments where you only do something when people are watching. Or that kid who they only clean up their room when they see you and they're like, hey, Mom, look, I'm picking up my clothes. Hey, Dad, look, I'm washing the dishes. That's the spectacle, right? Or the situations where, for people who don't have children, husband and wives, you're only a good husband when people are watching. You're only a good father on Facebook. You're only a good parent in the eyes of people, but when you go home, those kids don't even know who this man is. The spectacle. And God was showing me that he is interested in the specks of our lives. So my first point, which I think I've said 100 times already, is that God is interested in the specks. What is a speck? A speck of something, a speck is very small. A speck is a little thing. It's something you have to say. I have a speck of something. Most times it's something that you had to put under a microscope. Like it's tiny. If you go to Matthew 25 and 21, this is important. 25, and I can't help but to stand. I don't know why God made me this way. There's just one part of this that I love where he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, so I will put you in charge of many things." And that spoke to me heavily because when I think of the speck or when I think of little things, a lot of times if something is not big enough, we won't show up. A lot of times if something doesn't have a large enough audience, if something doesn't have enough likes, we'll take it down. If something doesn't have enough comments, it's not important. We're not important. When God gives a direction in something that's small, that means that whoever comes in contact with that small thing it was meant for. Again, being transparent, I've caught myself when I first started, teaching youth specifically in one of my previous churches. If only 3 kids showed up, my energy changed. I wasn't as energetic. I wasn't as vibrant. Sometimes I wouldn't even teach the word. I'll just talk. And that's not what God told me to do. God said, I gave you a word to teach these 3. But you were disobedient. And instead, you decided to talk to them about school and what's going on in life because only 3 showed up. But what if that word was for one of those 3? What if that word could have saved the lives of one of the 3? The problem is we look at it, if it's not 100, it's not impactful enough. Which is the reason why, like I said, if you post a photo and you get 2 likes, you subconsciously say, okay, must not have been a pretty photo. I must not look good in it. It didn't get enough comments. I'm going to go ahead and take it down. When was that really the point of the photo? And if it was, then you ask yourself, you're doing it for the spectacle of others and not for yourself. So God was showing me that he is so about the little things in our lives. He showed me that we look over people because they're not big enough, because they're not important enough. There's certain things that some people have said to you in your life, but because they weren't a celebrity, because they weren't Steve Harvey, because they weren't Oprah, because they weren't whoever you watch or you take in, you didn't listen to it. When that person gave you the same advice, but because it didn't come from who you expected it to come from, you shunned away from it. The little things. God made me look up something that I thought was quite interesting. The ant is the strongest animal on the planet. And the reason it's the strongest animal on the planet is not because it can defeat an elephant, or it's not that it can kill a lion. It's not that it can even kill us. It's only considered the strongest animal on the planet because it can lift over 20 times its weight. So that made me think, if this small creature can be considered the strongest thing, the strongest animal on the earth, we look at ants, and if we see an ant, for example, with a crumb, we think that crumb is small. But that crumb fed 100 ants. But to an elephant, crumb looks like nothing. And what God showed me through that was that some of us are meant to be ants and some of us are meant to be elephants. Let me explain. There are certain purposes in life that requires elephant-type movement. And there's certain things in life that require ant-type movement. The problem is none of us want to be ants. Because we think being an ant is too small. Being an ant is not important. Being an ant is not critical to life. We think I want to be the elephant because it's the biggest thing in the room, not understanding that usually the biggest thing in the room is usually the most insecure. The loudest person in the room usually is not the smartest and usually is the most insecure. But there's also things in life that require an elephant type of faith, an elephant type of movement, an elephant type of obedience, because the purpose is totally different for an elephant than it is for an ant. An elephant has to feed a family of 4. An ant has to feed a family of 1,000. But we don't look at it like that. That's not how we look at life. All of us want to be the biggest person in the room. We want the spectacle. If my business only sells 5 mugs, to us, that's not as important as the person that sold 1 million. Well, that 5 is just as important. I'll never forget, Pastor told me a story about how he made food for some people, and one person came to him and told him they didn't like the food. And he went and started trying to change the recipe because one person didn't like his food. And to me, again, it's the spectacle of the food. I need everyone to like it. I need everyone to enjoy what I'm giving. Which then gets into us needing and to be accepted by people. Us having to live in the spectacle all derives from needing acceptance. That's what the spectacle is. We need to be big and not small. God showed me that He's interested in your little seeds. It's the small seeds you plant. It's your reading the Bible every day. It's your praying to Him every day. Those little seeds. Me coming here and speaking on Thursday, on Wednesday or on a Sunday is not more important than what I do when I read and when I pray and I plant those little seeds. I guarantee you I will reap more in life from my reading and my prayer than I will ever do from standing up here. I believe that pastor receives way more than he does, reaps way more of an harvest from his relationship with God than he does being here, because this is dangerous. Because I'm held responsible for every word that I say. It's the little things. It's the little seeds in your relationship. It's the little seed of faith. It's the little seed of love. It's the little seed of joy. But we allow the spectacle of those things to erase the little seeds. Right? It's the reason why in relationships, specifically in relationships, I don't ever date my wife, but I'm going to take her, we're going to just do Christmas. And I'm going to post all about Christmas. But we ain't been on a date all year. The spectacle. And then you wonder why that's failing. Your faith. Faith is a daily thing. But all we want to talk about is the one testimony. The spectacle. And the problem is we allow the spectacle to ruin the little things that God is doing in our lives. So when I go back to 1 Samuel and look at David, it brought me to the fact that this man was told he was going to be king. And he was messing with sheep. The little thing. The non-important thing. The thing people didn't care about. But you know what God showed me that I thought was amazing? God revealed to me that, I'll read it first. Okay, so 1 Samuel 14. Let me see here. 1 Samuel, give me a second. Okay. Where we at? 14. Okay. So it says David was the youngest. The three oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep. Back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep at Bethlehem. For 40 days, the Philistines came forward every morning and evening and took his stand. Now Jesse said to his son David, I'm assuming Jesse is the father, take this, I'm going to butcher this, am I saying that right? Ephah, thank you, of roasted grain, and these 10 loaves of bread for your brother, and hurry to their camp. Take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit. See how your brothers are doing, and bring back some assurance for them. So that showed me that he was left behind. The man that saves the entire army was the person who was told to stay back and take care of the sheep. And the only thing that got him there to the actual battle was for him to bring them food, nutrition. If he takes care of the sheep, if he takes care of his father's land, if he takes care of the father's farm, I'm just going to assume, it's assumption here. This is opinion, not biblical. I don't know, it doesn't say it in the Bible, but I'm going to assume if he's taking care of the livestock, would that not mean that he's also in charge of how people eat? It's an assumption. I can be wrong. So his father sends him to battle to feed his brothers and to come back with information. So the only thing that gets him there is a direct direction. So the second thing God showed me was God is in the specifics, which are the precise things. So he's in the specs, which are the little things, and he's in the specifics, which are the precise things. God is precise, y'all. God is so precise. God is so precise. Because when he gives certain directions, he expects us to be obedient and to follow the specific directions that we're given. God was specific with Noah and the ark. God was specific with Sodom and Gomorrah. God has always been very, very, very specific. And a lot of times, him being specific does not bring a spectacle. A lot of times, if God tells you to feed the hungry or to help someone out, he doesn't mean bring out your phone and record while you do it. That wasn't a part of the direction. When God gave you a specific direction on what to post and how to lead your life, he didn't say, well, make sure you go tell him how you did it too. I heard something this week that said the difference between confidence and arrogance is when a person is confident, they don't have to talk about it. It's an arrogant person who has to let you know who they are. When a person is confident, they don't have to tell you, I'm confident. It's usually the arrogant person who has to say, I'm the biggest and the baddest, Goliath. I'm the biggest, I'm the baddest, I'm the strongest. Usually the confident person, it's just that's why I'm scared of quiet people, because I'm not a quiet person. I tell my wife all the time, I pray to God nobody ever see you mad. Because it be the quiet ones. If you really think about it, if you're the quiet one in the room, you know you're a little crazy. You probably the craziest one out of your family if you the quiet kid. If I'm lying, I'm telling you, the quietest person in my house is the craziest when growing up. That was the craziest person. That was the person who'd be like, all right, you probably don't want to mess with her because there's a reason she's so quiet. It's the loudest person that's usually, the quick's going to be like, nah, I'm good. You got it, bro. I'm just being honest. So God is interested in the specifics in his direction. He's not interested in the spectacle. And what I realize is a lot of times we fail in the different things that we want to do for God because if it's not big enough, we don't want to do it. And if you look at Matthew 6:1, let's get to Matthew. Okay, Matthew 6:1 reads, this is a direct correlation with what I said earlier. Be careful not to do your acts of righteousness before men, to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward. Again, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with triumphs, with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets. Doesn't that look like society right now? To be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Does that not look like what we are living in right now? Everybody is a philanthropist. Everybody's a philanthropist now. Everybody's a philanthropist. Everybody's a scholar. Everybody got a PhD. Everyone is an expert. Everyone has a master class. Everyone has, hey, come spend $10 a month. I'll teach you how to make some money. Everyone's an expert. This is literally, like, this is what we're living in. Everyone wants to announce what they do with trumpets. That's the goal. Even in the sense of, and I think I've said this before, why I feel like Satan plays in the spectacle way more than he plays in anything else. Because I said it before, if Satan can get you to worry about the spectacle, he can get you to miss what's really important. It's the reason why I feel like society is where it's at right now. It's why we live in the world we live in now. It's the reason why there's so much division and there's so much separation, right? Because everything has to be this huge spectacle. And you miss what's really going on. You miss the little thing. So everyone's in the comments section of something that is said because you're worried about the spectacle. Well, you missed that that person might really just need someone to talk to them. We're distracted. Completely distracted by the spectacle of this world. I'm telling you, I have caught myself watching too many political videos and I'm like, I really don't care about politics. And then this is how it works too. Here's the crazy part. It's all meant for fear. Because here's what happens. What happens is you begin to operate in the spectacle of whatever's going on in society. And what you instantly do is you instantly feel like, oh, the world's about to end. Oh, Jesus definitely coming back tomorrow because my children are doomed. My house is doomed. Nothing is safe. Everything is the devil. My kids can't go to school. But this can't. And I'm not saying that there's real dangers in the world. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, if you always operate in that spirit of the spectacle of what society is trying to show you, you'll miss all the goodness that's going on. All the people who are giving their life to Christ. I've seen more people open to God than I've ever in my life. As much as I've seen witchcraft and demonic things, I have seen people completely operate so differently because they're like, oh, wow, that's really evil. So there's got to be something over here. But the body is who's playing into the spectacle more than anybody else. We fill up more of the comment sections than regular people. We do. We do. In every way. So God is interested in the specifics of our life. And what he showed me is when we don't listen to his specifics, there are consequences. Sodom and Gomorrah, don't turn around. She turned around. Turned into dust. Imagine if Noah didn't listen. Probably wouldn't be no us. Or knowing God, probably would have been another boat somewhere. He'd just been like, hey, Noah didn't listen, so I'm going to have someone else build the boat. Because he will replace you. If you don't listen to his specifics, he will replace you. Because the purpose didn't change. The position changed. Because you weren't in position. So specifics. The last point I have is God is in what makes you special. Is what makes you special. God is in the unique things. So God is in the specs, which are the little things. God is in the specifics, which are the precise things. And God is in the special things, which are the unique things. God is what makes you unique. God is what makes you you. Because when you think about the story of David and Goliath, again, assumption, this is an army of people. If you watch any army movie, if you watch any war movie, if you watch Gladiator, any movie, you train to get in the army. I'm assuming before they went to battle, like any movie I've watched, they sat in a little area and said, go, ching, ching. Go, ching, ching. Go, ching, ching. I'm assuming there's no way. Dude showed up to war, was like, well, I ain't never held a sword in my life. I just can't believe that. So there had to be some practice and preparation and always everything. I have to assume some of them was 6 foot also. Some of them was strong also. But this guy that herd sheep, who looks like a little boy, that's what they described him as, had something that they did not have. He has something that made him unique. Because even if you read, at first, when Goliath was talking crazy, David wasn't really paying him much attention. He was just kind of asking around, what's going on? What happens if we kill him? He's just asking questions. It wasn't until Goliath disrespected God that David was like, whoa, hold up, rewind. That's different. He was like, you could disrespect the army. You could disrespect where we from. You could, all that. Whoa, no, disrespect my God now. See, we the opposite. Don't disrespect Oak Cliff. Don't disrespect the Grove. Don't disrespect Dallas. But you could talk crazy about my God, though. In my face. You could talk crazy about church. You could talk crazy about the people in my church. You could talk crazy about everything going on. The body of any conversation about the body of Christ is disrespectful. And we entertain the conversations. I have. But anything else gets disrespected. Nah. Don't be talking about my hood. I've been through this. I've been through that. I saw this. I came from the slum. We glorify the slums. I came from the slums. From the ground up. From the bottom floor. You lived in a 2-bedroom house. You had 2 bathrooms. You had a master bathroom. Come on now. Suburb thugs. That's what I call them. You a suburb thug. A lot of these mesquite kids, suburb thugs. You got a Mercedes in the driveway. Relax. But I digress. But what I'm trying to explain is we glorify everything else in our lives but God. Though the thing that makes us who we are and the reason for why we should be living is the very thing that we don't talk about, we don't live like, and we allow people to disrespect. When that is what God lives in, because he should live in us. I thought about when Pastor talked about the fig tree, and what hit me was, it wasn't that the fig tree didn't look good. Because when he saw the fig tree, he assumed the fig tree had some figs. But when he got up to the fig tree and got close, there was no figs on the tree. Which made me think that Jesus was upset. I don't think that the fig tree, that he was so hungry that the fig tree didn't have figs. He was upset that he was deceived. He was upset that what made the fig tree a fig tree, it didn't have. Are we deceiving him? When he gets close in our houses and our lives, will he look and say, oh, this fig tree has figs? And what I literally mean is my spirit is in this person. My spirit is not for the spectacle of others. Oh yeah, I'm going to go there. My spirit is not for the spectacle of others. A lot of us are spiritual when it's a spectacle. But we have no spirituality when we walk across the street, when we go in our homes. But we are so spiritual when there's people watching. A fig tree with no figs. We've become so spiritless, alone. Become spirit-full, filled, when these seats are filled. God is not interested in the spectacle because Satan rules the spectacle. That's his domain. That's his domain. If I could get you to argue with people all day on Facebook and be a Facebook warrior, where are you saving lives at? Being a Facebook warrior don't get you no points in heaven. It doesn't. I'm just being honest. Some of it being a YouTube warrior, commenting on you, it don't get you nothing. God is saying, when I told you to go talk to that woman over there, did you do what I say, or were you a coward? Which also gives you a place in hell. Were you cowardice? When I gave you a little thing and told you to be faithful over that little thing, were you faithful over it? Or did you give up on it because it didn't move fast enough for you? Or wasn't big enough for you? Or wasn't grandioso enough for you? Or didn't get enough applauses? Or didn't get enough acknowledgement? When God gave you a specific thing to do, that being your life, your career, your marriage, your children, did you completely go the opposite direction of what he specifically told you to do because it was uncomfortable? And did you give up the very thing that makes you special because it wasn't acknowledged by enough people? We spend too much time operating in spectacles. To be liked, to be accepted, to be patted on the back, to get claps, to be applauded, to get, to get ahead in life, to get ahead of others. It's all spectacles. God works as in decency and in order. I love that word, decency. We always talk about order, but God works in decency. Probably shouldn't say this on live, but you know how many times I wanted to get up at my job, grab that computer, slam it on my knee, and be like, I'm out. Peace. Don't call me. Don't email me. I ain't coming back. See y'all never again. I'm talking about bad. Oh, I remember what to do so bad. But that's not in order. It's not decent. So that's not God operate. That's a spectacle. I just went viral on Twitter. Those videos be kind of funny though, when they be like, get on the loudspeaker, they be like, he did this, he did that, I quit. I'd be like, I want to do that so bad. I'm like, should I put in my 2 weeks? Nah, I'll put in my 2 weeks. That's not in decency and order. I'm really trying to help us, me included, understand. Understand what makes us and makes us. Where is God in the things that we do? If you can't find him, then why are you doing it? We make this way more difficult than it has to be. If God is not in it, what are you doing it for? I really feel like a lot of the issues in our life,
Thank you for joining our services on today. We pray that something was said or done to help you navigate throughout this life. In today's times, we know that a fresh word from God is so relevant for us. You could have gone anywhere else to pay attention. You could have gone anywhere else to receive the word, but God sent you here, and we pray that you're leaving full. Until next time, we pray that everything happens for you the way you pray for it and the way God ordains it for your life. God bless you, and God keep you. Until next time.